guys, it's time for your geometry review. So geometry is all about learning the vocabulary. You should have most of this vocabulary memorized by now. So let's go ahead and let's go over each of the different things that we have learned about so far. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is lines. There are several different kinds of lines. The first thing we talk about is a point. A point is just a dot. It is an exact location. Then we have a line, and you guys missed this on the math interim. Not all of you, but most of you. Guys, a line has two arrows because a line goes on and on and on and on, and it never ends. Then we have a ray, and that is a line with one endpoint, and that goes on and on forever in one direction. Then we have a line segment, and that is when we see the two dots. A lot of you said this was a line. That's not a line. That's a line segment. And that is part of a line with two endpoints. A line segment, you can think of, it's just a piece of a line. But a line goes on and on forever and it never stops. Finally, we have a plane, and that is an endless flat surface. Now I want to talk to you about these kind of lines. So remember, point is just a dot. Line has the two arrows, goes on and on and on forever. A ray goes on in one direction. A line segment is just a piece of a line. And a plane is an endless flat surface. Then we have parallel, intersecting, perpendicular. Parallel, they go like this. They never touch. And I think of the L's in parallel. Those L's are never going to touch their lines. And they're never, ever, ever going to touch. Perpendicular is when they cross and they make right angles. They make a T. So perpendicular, I think of the L in perpendicular, and I make that T. They make right angles. Then we have intersecting. Intersecting lines, they can make an X, they can make a V, but they intersect, and they don't make any sort of right angles. They just make acute and obtuse angles. And they intersect at one point or multiple points. Now let's talk about the three different kinds of angles that we've learned about. A right angle is a 90-degree angle, and it makes that little square in the corner. Then we have acute angles. Those are a cute little baby, and those are smaller than a right angle. They're less than 90 degrees. Then we have an obtuse angle. That's when we think hang loose, and that is bigger than a right angle. A right angle makes an L. So if I was to take the corner of my paper and put it into the corner of this right angle, it is perfect because the corner of every single paper that you have is a right angle. So if you need to check that at any time, you can put your paper in there. Then we started talking about triangles. So there are 6 different kinds of triangles, and on your writing video today, I say if you haven't watched Geometry Review, you need to, because you need this for your writing. So there are 6 different kinds of triangle. You can classify a triangle by 2 things: their sides or their angles. So to classify a side, you would have to measure the sides. An equilateral triangle. So when I see equilateral, I think equal. That means all of the sides are equal. Isosceles is when 2 of the sides are equal. And scalene is when no sides are equal. Equilateral, I think equal. All sides are equal, and that's why they have those little dashes. That means the sides are equal. Isosceles has 2 sides, see the dashes, and scalene has no sides. Or you can classify it by angle. So if I classify it by angle, an acute triangle has 3 acute angles. A right triangle has 1 right angle. And an obtuse triangle has 1 obtuse angle. So if your triangle has at least 1 right angle or 1 obtuse angle, it is a right or obtuse triangle. But if all 3 angles are acute, it's an acute triangle. Then after that, I taught you about the different types of quadrilaterals. So remember, this was our anchor chart, but this was the thing that Miss Simpson liked the best. So basically, anything with 4 sides and 4 angles is a quadrilateral. So we have 4 sides and 4 angles, you have a quadrilateral. If you have 2 pairs of parallel sides or 1 pair of parallel sides, so 2 pairs, you get a parallelogram, 1 pair, you get a trapezoid. So then you come down, and if it has 2 pairs of parallel sides, it's a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 right angles. A rhombus has 4 sides of equal length. So if it has the right angles, it's a rectangle. If it has the equal length, it's a rhombus. And then we have a square. It has 4 right angles and 4 sides of equal length. So it's both of those together. So a square can be a rectangle, a rhombus, a parallelogram, and a quadrilateral. It has all of those different names. So like down here, this shows us a square. A square has 4 right angles, 4 sides of equal length. So that means it's a square, a rhombus, a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a quadrilateral. Oh my gosh. So then today we've gotten all the way to measuring angles with our protractor. So we went from learning just what a point is, then a line. We talked about parallel, perpendicular, intersecting. We talked about the 3 different types of angles. We talked about the 6 different kinds of triangles, all of the different kinds of quadrilaterals, and now we're measuring angles. So let's talk about angles for just a quick second. I want to show you what you do when you are given a protractor. I showed you how to use a protractor, but funny thing, you guys don't have a protractor. So when you have your questions on your test and they look like this, I want to help you figure out how to answer these. So first things first, you look at your angle. Now the angle is the black line right here. The cool thing about this is it's already lined up for you. You decide, is this an obtuse? Is this a right? Or is this a acute? I see that it's bigger than a right angle. I know it's obtuse, so I'm going to have to use the bigger numbers. So this one is perfectly lined up with the bottom. So if you have the side that's perfectly lined up with the bottom, you're going to look at the other side to measure it. And I'm going to use the big numbers because it's obtuse. It has to be larger than 90 degrees. So on here, I see there's 170, 171, 172, 173, 174. This looks like it is 175 degrees. And I did that by just counting those tiny little lines right there. So this one is 175 degrees. I don't know why that says 15, but let's take a look at this one. Is this acute, right, or obtuse? Well, when I see this, I see an acute angle. An acute angle is smaller than 90 degrees. So if I measure this, I look at the bottom one, and it is going to be lined up straight with the 0. And then I'm going to measure starting with this side. So I see it is perfectly on the 20 or the 160, but I know this is an acute angle, so it's got to be the 20, right? Because this is an acute angle, so it has to be that 20, doesn't it? Okay, let's take a look at this one. This side is perfectly lined up. Is this an acute, a right, or an obtuse? This is an acute angle. So we are not going to use the big numbers because, guys, an acute angle is smaller than 90 degrees. So if it's smaller than 90 degrees, I can't use the big numbers. I'm going to need to use the small numbers. So I have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 degrees here. So I figured that out as I saw the 10. And it's a little bit bigger than 10. So I counted up to 15 right here. So that's how I got this 15 degrees right over here. Now, I want you to pause your video right now, and I want you to do the 2 that you see on the screen. Get the angle measures, and then we'll check and see what your answer is. Okay, let's look. So I see this one, and I know it's bigger than a right angle, so it must be obtuse. Therefore, I need to use the bigger number. So I see the bigger number right here is 100, so this is 100 degrees. Did you get that? Give me a thumbs up. All right, let's take a look at this next one. So this bottom is lined up. I know it's obtuse. It's bigger than 90 degrees. So I'm going to use the bigger numbers. So I look over here and I see 130. Do you see 130 right there? I hope that you got 130. Okay, do this one. Actually, let's go down here. I want you to do these 2 that you see on the screen, and then we will check your answers. Okay, I see this one is an obtuse angle. It's bigger than 90 degrees. So I'm going to use the bigger numbers. And I see this is 101, 102, 103, 104, 105 degrees. Did you get 105 degrees? All right, let's do this one. I see it's an acute angle. So that means I need to use the smaller numbers because it's less than 90 degrees. And this is right at that 60 degree mark. Did you get 60 degrees? All right, good. Okay, so back to my home screen here. I have noticed that on that game I gave you, and even on a worksheet, there were angles, and let me draw one real quick. There were angles that were like this. So it had the protractor, but it wasn't lined up correctly. So the protractor, I need to make it bigger. Sorry, guys. Maybe the angle looked like this. And the protractor was set up like this. And it told you to find the degree of that angle. Well, since you're not in person and you don't have a protractor, you can't measure the angle and you can't move the protractor and you can't move the protractor. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm sure you asked your parents for some help because I neglected to teach you how to do it in the video, but I'm going to help you out. So if you have something that looks like this, they give you the protractor, but the angle is kind of whopper-jawed. It's not lined up like perfectly like I just showed you some examples. It's all whopper-jawed. So here's what you're going to do. You are going to look and see, is this angle an acute, a right, or an obtuse? I see this as an acute angle, right? So I'm going to pick either the top or the bottom numbers. Doesn't necessarily matter. So I'm going to do up here, and I see that this is 60 degrees. This line is 60 degrees. This line is at 110, 11, 12, 13, 114 degrees. So what I do is I take 114 and I subtract 60. So I would get 54 degrees. So this angle is 54 degrees. So you would tell me, okay, this side says 60, this side says 114. And if you subtract the two, you're going to get the space in between. So like I said, you could even do the bottom numbers. It doesn't matter which ones you pick. So that one is 120 and this one is at 64. If I subtract 120 minus 64, I am going to get 56. So they're within 5 degrees, and that is perfectly fine. I don't count it off as long as it's within 5 degrees. So if you're doing multiple choice, you pick whatever is the closest to the degree that you got. So again, it doesn't matter if you pick the top or the bottom. It just matters that you find it for each side. So let me get another piece of paper. Let's say it had a big one. And it put it right here. Okay. So we are going to measure it. I want you right now, I'm going to bring it in close. I want you to find the answer and we will solve it together. All right, so you should have found your answer. I'm going to use the top numbers just because I want to. This one looks like it's about 55 degrees. This one looks like it's at 151. Now, if you use the top numbers, you have to use the top numbers for both sides. You can't use the top here and the bottom here. You have to use it for both sides. So whichever one you use. So then I'm going to take 151 and I'm going to subtract 50. And I get 101. So this angle looks obtuse. So would 101 degrees make sense for that angle measure? Yes, it would make sense. If for some reason you subtracted and you got like 20 degrees, does this look like a 20-degree angle to you? No, and a 20-degree angle to me would look something like that. So make sure your answer is logical before you put it in. Okay, so let's look at what your assignment looks like today. You have use a protractor. So notice this one has a straight line. Most of them are lined up correctly. And then you have a geometry review. So you are going to have to label the triangles, write acute, equilateral, scalene, or isosceles. You're going to have to label the objects, parallelogram, rectangle, square, rhombus, trapezoid. You're going to label these line, segment, ray, angle, line, perpendicular, parallel, and you'll label these right, acute, or obtuse. Remember, I have told you that you have been having to memorize these. You have been memorizing these vocabulary terms. I've been telling you to memorize them for a while now. If you need help, there are anchor charts below. But for this review, I want to know what you have memorized, so I am not going to help you. So do not get on help time and ask for help on this one. You're just going to have to do your best and guess or look at previous anchor charts that we have used. All right, guys, I love y'all so much. I hope that you do your very best on this, and I will talk to you later. Bye.